Hey, what's up, guys? Tony here. And if you remember, well, today's September 11th. I posted a video today, and at the very tail end of the video, I started to talk about the terrorist attacks 10 years ago on September 11th, 2001. And I had tried to make a commentary several times, and I never could just get the feeling right. I couldn't get into that I know exactly what I want to talk about mode. I have a point to what I'm talking about. And so I woke up this morning, I posted that video, and I saw a couple people had replied like I was in kindergarten and or something like that. And I think it's sort of natural for everybody to want to share what they remember feeling and seeing and doing and tasting and smelling and but last night when I recorded that commentary, I didn't know how best to express myself. And I don't know if you guys have ever run into that situation where you're so overwhelmed, like you have so much that you want to talk about, but there is so little time. And especially when you're cramming it into a gameplay commentary, to be as concise as possible, it's kind of hard because how do you explain the events of September 11th within 10 minutes? I mean, you think 10 minutes is a lot of time. A lot of people, when they get into commentaries, they go, oh my God, what am I going to talk about for 10 minutes? You know, that's the way I was. And when I got to be, quote unquote, a veteran, I realized that 10 minutes is not a lot of time. Sometimes even 20 minutes is not a lot of time to talk about one specific subject. And that's what I really found myself doing last night. I intentionally made the first part of that commentary, almost the first 3/4 of that commentary, very much fluff, if you will. I don't want to call it fluff because I felt it was a good commentary, good enough for me to post, but I dodged the topic that I wanted to talk about because of the fact that I didn't know how to make it what I wanted to make it. I didn't know how to get it to where I wanted it to go. And so this morning I woke up. I remembered there's a very popular radio station here in San Diego called Dave Shelley and Chainsaw, their morning crew, and they were talking about this all week. They were going to be they're going to be replaying their broadcast from 10 years ago. And so I turned it on this morning at about 9-ish. They were replaying what they were broadcasting at 6 in the morning on September 11th. And listening to the radio, I had a flood of emotions just come back to me. It was surreal. I think I listened for about a half hour or so, and they did this really interesting sort of like minute by minute, blow by blow. This is what's been going on up until the point that DSC here in San Diego started broadcasting. So they're saying, okay, well, it's 5 o'clock here, and it's 8 o'clock in New York, and the first plane hits at 8:23 or whatever it was. And anyways, it just got me thinking about what I was doing, where I was, and I was like most San Diegans or any people on the West Coast. I was asleep, and my mom came in and she woke me up, and she said, a plane has crashed into one of the Twin Towers. And I had this little TV in my room, and she turned it on, and I watched it for, I don't know, a couple of minutes, because basically it was the news coverage of a burning building, and I didn't quite get it. I didn't understand what was going on. I couldn't comprehend what was going on, and I don't think many Americans understood what was going on. I think everyone thought it was just an accident, like something happened, and it was no big deal. And then I fell back asleep because it was 5 in the morning, and I was 18 at the time, and I was getting ready for one of my first weeks or so of college. I think it might have been my first or second week of college, back before I dropped out a whole bunch of times. But I fell back asleep. But the thing is I woke back up, and I looked at my TV, and that's when I saw the second plane crash into the second tower. And I still didn't get it. I did not get it. I did not understand what was going on. I mean, visually I saw it, I understood a plane crashed into it, but I didn't understand, and maybe it was because I was 18 and naive, but I didn't understand that there were people out there that wanted to hurt us, to destroy what we are as a country, that are willing to sacrifice not only their lives, but the lives of thousands of other people to to get to their means, to their ends, whatever their goal was. And I didn't get that. I didn't get that for years. And I understand it now. I do. But it's still one of those surreal places, you know, like headspaces. You know, it's so weird. We really, in the West, we really value life. We really value living. We value coming home to your loved ones. We don't necessarily value the idea of dying in battle for a cause. That's not what makes a hero to us. A hero is somebody who goes and does their job and comes back alive. That's a hero. We don't have that notion that if you die in battle, you are a hero. I mean, you are given awards if you do die in battle, or if you sacrifice yourself for your friends. We have got the Medal of Honor. That is the most prestigious medal any serviceman or woman can get. And typically, they die in the act of saving other people. So we do value heroic acts that result in some sort of a death. We do, but we would much rather have that person come home with their entire body intact. So the idea that people will sacrifice their lives for a cause is really foreign to us, and it is foreign to me. And like I said, I understand it, but it's not necessarily something that I will completely understand, buy into. And then on the flip side, you have got the idea of the heroic person, the firefighters. And this is another sort of thing that I don't think I'll ever fully understand because it's not built into me. I mean, I kind of get it a little bit because when I was younger, I had all these dreams that I wanted to be Spider-Man, I want to be a superhero, I want to go save people. And as weird as this sounds, I used to kind of fantasize that I could be that guy who could run in front of a bus or something and push that person out of the way. So maybe it is within me. I just have never explored that selflessness that I have. And it makes me wonder how I would handle the situation if I was a firefighter or if I was in New York 10 years ago. Would I turn and run? Or would I be one of those guys who volunteers his time and even potentially his life to rescue, to aid in the rescue, to give first aid, to do whatever I can do? So those are questions that I kind of find myself asking. And really, it was one of those moments where actually I got up, I stopped listening to the broadcast about 9:30 or so. I went into my TV room and I turned on the TV because I knew the History Channel was going to be playing, I think it's 102 Minutes That Changed the World. I think it's what the name of the documentary is called. Basically what it is, it's a bunch of people's video that they cut together into a documentary. And it's very well done. It will tear at your heartstrings. It is very emotional. Because it's a very personal experience, and this is sort of the reason why I sat down to do this commentary, is because I watched that documentary, and all those, like I said before, the radio broadcast brought it out, the documentary brought it out, but all those feelings that I had on September 11th were just coming out of me. I mean, I found myself, my eyes were getting moist. It wasn't necessarily crying, but I think now that I'm older, the full impact of that day resonates with me now more so than when I was younger. Because when I was younger, I didn't get it. I was so selfish, so concerned about myself and concerned about what this meant to me and not what it meant for the country and what it potentially meant for the world. So there's a little bit of shame in that I'm actually going to let you guys know about. And basically here it is. This is just Tony, really bare. This is very vulnerable Tony right now talking to you guys. I remember when they were going to talk about instituting the draft, there was this talk going on, and I must have been 19, maybe 20. And it had been a couple years since September 11th, and we had, let's see here, I think it was right before we were going to invade Iraq. I think we invaded Iraq 2003. Anyways, there was this talk about the draft, and I was so concerned that I was going to get drafted. Suddenly, my being was threatened. I didn't want to go and fight. My father was a Marine. I watched his life. I grew up in a Marine Corps family. I understood what it was like for a Marine. I didn't want that life. I really didn't want that life. And so I remember talking to one of my bosses, and he and I had a conversation about what if there's a draft. What should I do? I mean, I told him, like I said, as shameful as this for me to admit it, and here I am admitting it to 700 plus people, then whoever else is going to watch it besides the subscribers. But I had considered leaving the country, and I am really embarrassed about that behavior. I really wish that I would have done something differently. Now at 28, if the country was attacked again, I think I'd be one of the first guys to go enlist. That's just the way I feel now. I wish I felt that way then. However, my life would be completely different. And I can't change the past, and I can't I can't alter, I can't make decisions, or I can't make judgments on who I was then, because I'm a different person then than I am now. But I just have to accept the fact that this is who I was then, and I'm okay with telling that story, even though it is embarrassing because I felt that way. I felt that that cowardice when the rest of the country probably wasn't. I know there was a lot of people who went and enlisted. I mean, you've got them. Oh, who's the football player? Patrick Tillman, I think it was. He gave up his luxury millions of dollars per season lifestyle to go enlist, become a Ranger, and ultimately he, died in I think it was Iraq or Afghanistan. But the thing is just that there's that fire in those people, and the fire was there for Pearl Harbor, and it wasn't there for me. And I think that's what really kind of bugs me now about it. But I remember when I first saw the news coverage on September 11th. There was this smoke, and there was the buildings on fire, and there was the sirens in the background, and there was just pandemonium. Just everything was happening at once, and it was weird because it was so distant to me. Being in California, New York was a distant place. I had never been to the East Coast. I'd never been there, and so I had no association really with the East Coast, and I do have family there. I have family in Jersey, but it's not really the same. That was happening in Manhattan, downtown financial district in Manhattan, and I just didn't comprehend it. Like I was saying earlier, I didn't comprehend what was going on. And back in 2004, I went to New York for a week, and I think it was about Wednesday we finally made our way down to Ground Zero. And while we were down in New York, at least by Ground Zero, I heard it might have been a cop car, it might have been a fire truck, it might have been an ambulance, it might have been something. But anyway, sirens were blaring. And it was the most eerie feeling because here we are at Ground Zero. I can hear sirens. Their construction work is going on. And I got the slightest hint what it must have felt like, what it must have sounded like to be around New York City at that time. Because if you've never been to New York City, when the sirens go off, they resonate off the buildings, and you can hear them for blocks and blocks and blocks. And it is, like I said, it's an eerie feeling. It's just something that you can't get anywhere else but New York, just because all the buildings and everything are in very tight proximity to each other, and they're close proximity, and it's just the sound will travel. And so I remember when I got down to Ground Zero, there was a fence there, and they had pictures and flowers, and some buildings were covered in like a black tarp. They're working on the buildings or something. But for me, because like I had just said, New York was such a faraway place. I had no connection to it ever. And suddenly, here I was, Ground Zero, and I'm looking around at the buildings, and I'm blown away by, first, how vast the area is. It's huge. But also by how close everything is. Because I could not imagine two buildings collapsing within the area that I was standing in. I thought there should be more buildings that fell down. I think it was like a total of 4 buildings or something fell down that day. But when the 2 towers fell, I couldn't imagine seeing all that rubble and stuff around there. I mean, it was ridiculous. I'm blown away by it. But more than that, the pictures, the flowers, the names, the missing persons. Have you seen this person? Still there. People still were putting stuff up, and that hit me. It touched me so close to my core, piercing just like every part of you, that you could not help but get that sense that, oh my God, this really happened. It was, 3 years later, and suddenly I'm finally getting it. I'm finally getting the scope of what has happened. I can see the ground zero. I can see ground zero. I can see the people who are leaving flowers. I can see the pictures of people who had died there. It was such a life-changing moment for me because it became personal. Suddenly it was no longer New York City got attacked. For me it was now America got attacked. There were Americans who died. These are real people. I can see their faces. I can see the letters written by children to their fathers who had passed away, telling them that they were missing them, that they wish they could be there, that they'll see them in heaven one day. Stuff like that. That was just so earth-shattering to me. And if you've never been to New York City, you've got to go. And go spend some time at Ground Zero. I know they have the September 11th memorial down there, and I'd love to go see that place. And I know that I would get the same feeling that I got when I was there in 2004. But here's something that's also quite interesting about America and is in this area. And yes, it was a very sad experience for me. It really hit me hard. It was like a weight on my shoulders, and it was quite depressing. And I almost broke down and almost cried. I mean, it was really a heavy experience. But more than that, what put a smile on my face is the subway system was working again. There's a subway terminal that goes right underneath the Ground Zero, and that was up and that was operational again. And why I say it brought a smile to my face is because it is the epitome of American resilience. Here is a city that was assaulted, buildings collapsed, lives were lost. But in the wake of that, there is this notion that no matter what you do, you cannot stop us. We are America, and we will continue to live, we will continue to thrive, and we will continue to do as we as Americans, and at least in this country, are going to do. And no amount of lives lost and no amount of external pressures is going to change that. I took this foreign policy class during the summertime, and we talked about American exceptionalism, and we are an exceptional nation among other exceptional nations, but I would say, being very biased and being American, we are the most exceptional nation. There are people that want to come here. There are people that want to enjoy the things that this country has to offer. And I know that I'm being very rah, America is great because I am American. I will say that. So please don't hate me for this, because it is my personal opinion. There is so much that this country has to offer. It's amazing. People come here. There is no other country in the world where people want to flock to come here to get education, to live, to experience stuff. It is amazing, and we are an exceptional nation. And the reason why I bring that up is because of that subway. That subway showed me more than anything else that no matter what happens, this country will go on, and this country will never forget. Because that's important. We will never forget what happened. We will remember our history. We'll remember what happened, but we will never let it change who we are as a people. So anyways, guys, that has been my really long commentary about September 11th. I really hope you guys will sit back and reminisce about what has happened today, what has happened 10 years ago on this day. Perhaps thank a firefighter, a police officer, and you know what? Maybe just sit down and record your own experiences. And if you're going to put them on YouTube, or if you're going to put them online, go ahead and send them to me. I want to hear them. I want to listen to them. And I want to be able to take in more perspectives. I mean, that is the essence of being a historian. I want to see what other people experience. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'll talk to you later.
You guys should convert here. Look for an open man, and remember, an incomplete pass is a turnover.